Why are we all here? Fundamental question of what brings all of us together for 3 days to spend time, get together, and understand. Not the philosophical question of why were we born, but more importantly, the question of what we as analytics professionals today worry about. What is it that gives us sleepless nights? What is it that we are answerable for? And that's really the question that we're all concerned about. If you think about it, it's really about what is the value that we're bringing for our businesses. What are the actions that we're driving for them? How are those actions translating into them growing faster, them being able to do more with their customers, and them being more profitable? So I thought it'd be good today to spend some time taking a back seat, maybe taking a slightly big picture view of saying, what is this all about that will enable us to create value for our businesses? Clearly, we have the best of opportunity, but how can we make the most of it? If you think about it, it's really about actions. And businesses have a couple of different ways that they drive actions. First, businesses interact. They interact with their customers. They engage with them in the process of serving them. They engage with them in terms of solving issues, troubleshooting issues, getting the products delivered. Second, they monitor. They monitor assets, they monitor resources, they monitor transactions. How many of us worry about if large sales teams that we have today are effective on an everyday basis? Are they on the job doing what they're supposed to do? How many of us worry about if all the servers that we have and the machines that we spin together are actually ready to deliver as customer transactions come through? How many of e-com clients worry about transaction payments not going through? So we monitor. We monitor assets, we monitor transactions. We then want to prevent. We want to prevent costs. We want to prevent abuse of resources and systems. We want to prevent data leaks. And we want to prevent fraud. Fourth, if we think about it, last but not the least, we're all concerned about growth. How will we grow? How can we do more with existing customers? How do we effectively acquire new customers every single day? If we think about these actions and say, yes, these are in some form the 4 actions that we invariably want to do and our businesses are concerned about, the question becomes, how do we get to a situation where we can enable and drive our businesses more closer towards taking those actions on a day in, day out basis? Either fully or partially, but the journey of making this as efficient and seamless as possible is at the crux of enabling us to be able to deliver value for our businesses. If we think about it, we tend to look at this as a 3-step process. And the process isn't new. It also defines our identity, but nothing much has changed in the world today, and it won't. The process, the first step of this is the ability to translate volumes of data. We have no doubt about it. Volumes of data, structured and unstructured, into meaningful information assets that become useful. If you think about it traditionally, and this is not long back, we've always had the ability to use structured data. We spent a lot of money building data warehouses, data systems. We now build data lakes. But our ability to harness data was still limited. We were still using about 10 to 15% of what we could have used. Over the last couple of years, we've now become better at it. We're very good in terms of using unstructured data, documents, images, video, to translate them into structured form and get to more specific data streams that tell us, okay, what's my customer doing? How many customers do I have in my store walking in today? Where are they spending time? What is it that they're struggling with if I look at their behavior? So I have all of that data that I can now translate from unstructured images, text, and videos. And AI is making all of this possible. The ability to use neural networks, the ability to use machine learning algorithms, deep learning algorithms, in various shapes and forms is making all of this possible. What's becoming more important now is the ability to work with these data streams which are fundamentally disconnected. We discussed this in the last session. These are not connected data streams. The machines don't understand how they're connected. And hence, we need to move away from a paradigm of direct connection, our ability and desire to be able to connect this across multiple entities and be able to work more effectively with more fuzzy connections, more contextual connections. And I think today, with graph networks and the ability to build ontologies, we're absolutely there. So in many ways, we're now in a fundamentally different position in ability to leverage data, far more data, which can be translated to information, and far more effectively connecting these across entities to answer a lot more contextual questions for businesses. But then, the next question is, how do we translate these into meaningful insights? The traditional challenge we've always had, and we struggle with this today, and it's a lot more pertinent with India as an economy and India as and various industries in India, is the quality of data. Quality of data, because we're still trying to migrate towards more effective systems, digital capture, technology, and we have fundamental challenges in how good data is. And we've always worried about sparsity of data. I know something about me, but I don't know the same thing about you, and we don't have a good picture which we can leverage. Again, advancements in technologies, neural net algorithms, which historically were not possible, and today are becoming absolutely mainstream, are allowing us to be able to decipher patterns and make the best use of it in terms of dealing with noise that we have in data, and hence overcome the challenges that we have around data quality, being able to work through sparsity and be able to infer around consumers. Can I infer around how wealthy someone is? Can I infer around how affluent someone is? And that gives me fundamentally increased ability to make better decisions. Second, we also have now an increasing ability to understand consumer patterns and transaction patterns and patterns around machines and behaviors in a far more granular manner. Deep learning algorithms and neural nets are enabling our ability to learn in far more granular basis, and hence the ability to make these actionable. We can detect fraud patterns, and our ability to detect those in accuracy, precision recall is far more effective today. But is this all about AI and the choice of algorithm? And does that make many people believe with the advent of these algorithms and easy availability of it and the Theanos and the libraries that we have access to just makes our job very easy? Does it? Absolutely no. Right? It's not about the algorithms. As we've seen, it's really about what algorithms work where. It's about the discretion and the ability of analysts to be able to make the best use of those algorithms in the right situations. So from that perspective, though we have better ammunition, though we have better capabilities, nothing much has changed. Even 10 years earlier, when we used to build models, it was the analysts that used to make a difference. They had the access to same ammunition, same technology. The analyst made a difference between something that was practical, something that was far more effective and stable. And today, as we've seen with several sessions in the past, that will continue to make a difference. So yes, AI is significantly accentuating our ability to make use of getting to far more granular insights, but doesn't replace the need for us as analysts and analytics professionals to do a far more superior job. And in fact, we actually have a much more tougher job today than we had earlier, a far more tougher job in terms of making the best use of each of these algorithms and appropriately use them. So that's about the second pillar. So in some sense, when people say, okay, we're doing so well today, what is it that they make a difference? I think really two things that fundamentally make a difference. One, if we can think through and bring in greater volumes and types of data into our consideration set, that's a big leg up. So the first dimension of our equation of data to information is very valuable. And I've seen several engagements with customers where that's the one big area where you make a fundamental shift in how you're operating and your ability to deliver value. Second is the ability to use the right algorithm in the right context appropriately. But once we have this, we have the data to information and we have the right insights. The question is, does that make this actionable? It wasn't the case historically. It wasn't the case historically, but today, with a lot more cloud computing capabilities, mobile technology, algorithmic expertise, we're now starting to bridge the gap between knowing what's happening and being able to intervene in real time. It's working in some cases, it's not as effective in others. But clearly, it's possible. And hence our desire has to be to see how we make the transition to take most of these interventions to almost a point where they can work seamlessly. So for example, today, we have solutions which can understand customer interactions, customer behavior, transactions, understand the latent need of what customers are looking for, and be able to get to specific recommendations to sales agents on what should they be doing in this specific opportunity. We have virtual assistants that we're starting to look at and engage effectively with customers in a fairly personalized manner. So I think the last leg of what enables operationalization of these insights is starting to become a lot more mainstream. The question then comes across, is it just about being able to look at these as three silos of data to information, information to insights, and the operationalization of this towards impact and actions? Not really. It's not about these silos. In fact, what's very important and often neglected is the need to be able to step back. Step back and in the context of an action, in the context of a decision, work backwards and say, what data can I bring to the table to make this decision far more effective? What insights and what algorithms can I use to make these learnings and identification of patterns a lot more sharper, a lot more precise, and a lot more personalized? And not just stop at that, what can I do to make these actions available at the last mile for decision makers to consume, and in many cases seamlessly drive actions for these results to be effective? So the way we think about this is not think of this as silos of data to information, information to insights and impact. We think of this as a continuum that one needs to keep iterating, but work towards in a seamless manner. So for example, we all know businesses have costly resources on the street working with our customers. These could be collection agents, these could be sales representatives, these could be brokers who are working with clients to broker insurance deals, or with distributors trying to sell CPG products. We've been able to work together with our clients in seeing how we could help these agents, these representatives, be far more smarter, informed in terms of how they engage with them, and be able to use their learnings in a fairly real-time manner to make them continue to be effective on an ongoing basis. So we were able to bring together all of the data, be able to use unstructured data, translate it into structured data streams, be able to bring them together real time, understand the patterns, and make those actions available in handheld devices or devices that these agents carry to engage with their customers. In one of these cases, we were very effective in improving same-store sales to up to 7%. In some cases, with financial services clients, we were able to make their high net worth relationship managers translate the same level of efficiency, effectiveness, and engagement to almost a digital engagement where you didn't require all of those relationship managers to be engaging with customers. So in essence, if we think about it, the way we think about this is saying, for us to be able to deliver actions, for us to be able to deliver value, it's really the continuum of working backwards from actions to saying, what data can we bring to the table? How can we translate most of it to information? What patterns and insights can we learn? And then use technology and algorithms to enable and make these available at the last mile for actions. But is this all about just AI? Is this all about information, insights, and impact coming together? No, not really. In fact, that's even not the first question that we should start thinking about. And often the mistake that we do when things don't get implemented, or mistake that we do when projects take years to come alive, or months to come alive, or situations where we keep going in circles trying to wrestle with the same problem, not making any progress, is our inability to step back and strategize in terms of where we want to get to, work through the operationalization nitty-gritties in terms of how will we get there, and be able to work together towards a plan of how will we sustain once we get there. This all sounds nice, and this all sounds logical, and this all sounds absolutely obvious. The challenge is, we don't have the luxury of time today. Our competition for most of our businesses are nimble, they're agile, and they're coming from all quarters. So unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of doing this in phases, of saying, we'll strategize in a 5-year roadmap, and we'll build this over the next 2 years, and then we'll be there. By the time you want to get there, the opportunity may no longer be there. And hence, the way we think of this is we need to work with a very different mindset to make all of this possible. Yes, strategize, operationalize, and sustain may seem similar, but the world is very different. What you fundamentally need to strategize is a fairly quantitative approach towards saying, where do we want to get there? Understanding of what is the outcome we want to chase. What is it that we want to do differently, and hence be very clear of what our goals are. More importantly, those cannot be functional goals. It's not about supply chain function becoming effective. It's about, are my customers getting goods when we promised? So being able to set organizational goals and being able to define the end outcome that we want to get there, and not do this in phases, but be able to do this almost as a continuum, is absolutely vital. Once we've done the strategize, it's equally important for us to say, how will we operationalize? And between these two phases, we will need to iterate fairly rapidly. There are going to be constraints today in terms of data quality and what we can do with that data. Those constraints may not be available or may not be constraints tomorrow once technology becomes pervasive and your data quality improves. So you cannot wait for it to happen, nor can you come back and get to their next level of orbit once that happens. So I think the ability to not think of this as linear continuum, but the ability to iterate fairly rapidly is critical to make sure we can do these changes in a rapid and agile manner. Once we've strategized, is the next critical phase of how do we operationalize. And operationalization is about how we empower. Amazon made a big difference the moment it moved to a DevOps structure. And empower is about believing that each of us can take right actions in a seamless manner. We just need to make sure technology enables us with all the right constraints that make sure that we don't go wrong. So the ability to think about how we empower, the ability to take a fairly systemic view of things and not think of it in components, in specific problems, but we'll look at this as a whole and say, what is it? How will these pieces come together if I want to be able to meet my commitment to customer and deliver in 2 days? What are the different pieces? How should I redesign the process? How do I empower people to understand this? And how do I do this as a whole and not as silos is critical to be able to make this whole operationalization phase real. And once you get there, you will be at a certain phase of orbit which you need to sustain. If you don't, you would have lost all the momentum that you gathered through your strategize and operationalize. And the ability to make sure we can work towards organizations that can focus not just on automation, but augmentation. The ability to say we're not focused on what we need to do today, but fundamentally building capabilities for tomorrow is critical to sustain the momentum that we built through these 3 phases. So in many ways, if you think about it, to really make outcomes happen, we need an interconnected and almost a continuous loop of strategize, operationalize, and sustain, within which the whole information, insights, impact has to operate to make sure we make progress in terms of getting closer and closer to action that we want to deliver. In many ways, if we reflect back to what's happening, it's really making analytics a lot more actionable today. And it's all because we have at our disposal the capabilities and potential that were not available historically. So we clearly have analytics that's becoming actionable, and more importantly, the more actionable it becomes, it becomes invisible. You don't even realize what goes behind it and what goes behind the scene to ultimately make this real and make actions happen. And that's the nirvana. That's the state. The point at which you can get your solutions to a point where you don't know what's happening under the hood, and it happens seamlessly, effectively, and efficiently. You know you've started to connect as closely as possible to actions that matter to our businesses and outcomes that ultimately drive value. So from that perspective, I think the whole question that we started this conversation with, why are we here? I think in some way or the other, each of us are trying to seek ways where we can help our businesses transform digitally. We may not say it in as many words, we may say it in different words, but if you think about it, we're all trying to chase this holy grail of saying, what if I have all of these capabilities available with me, if I have all of these ammunition available with me, now is the time for me to make a difference. And I want to digitally transform my business. What does that mean? If you think about it, you can look at three broad types of digital transformation. First is what I call transformations around customer experience. I want to have a very, very different customer experience than what people are used to so far. It's not the archaic, bring in documents, we'll review it, we'll let you know what we think about it. We may have further questions and you can come back and give us. And by the way, in the next 1 month, we'll decide what we want to do with your loan application. Fundamentally different customer experience. So there are transformations around customer experience. Creating a wow factor that makes a differentiation, becomes a differentiation in how customers perceive our products and offerings. Second is transformation around operational effectiveness. We do things in a certain way. It's just way too costly, and we're spending a lot of money doing it, wasting a lot of time, which is just inefficient and ineffective. How do I transform my processes? How do I make every demand planner that I have as effective as the best demand planner? How do I make every sales rep that I have as effective as my best sales rep? How do I make every collections agent that I have as effective as my best collections agent? Transformations around operational effectiveness. And third, a broad category of transformations around completely creating new different models. We call them digital business models or new business models. Essentially, being able to think afresh and say, we will now do this differently. We'll go to market differently, we will offer our products differently, and that's a very different experience. And you've been off examples today that we know of who've created a completely new business market by just looking at the same business model around hotels, around taxis, in a very different manner that's created a completely new market. So at the end of the day, these are three broad categories around any of us, around themes that any of us may be thinking around. And I think the whole information insight continuum in the context of our strategy, operationalize, and sustain should give us good guidelines in terms of how we can make progress in this direction. So for example, if you think about customer experience, it's really the ability to understand customers. It starts with an insane obsession about saying, I'm going to create a business that's around data, that can capture as much information as I can around customers, which will help me understand my customers better. And hence, every single thing that I do, every function, every action is oriented around, am I getting to know you better? And am I capturing this in a manner that I can use this later? So the whole data to information. Information to insights. Once I have this, what am I doing? What am I learning? How am I learning about this in a manner that becomes pervasive? It's about the ability to translate information to insights. But then, have you been able to solve mechanisms in ways through which you can precisely act when customer is looking for some things? Act in a manner that he wants, act through the channels that he prefers at a time when he would like you to come in front. And that's really the ability to translate insights to actions and hence impact. And you can use this in every single form. You can use this, a similar sort of construct around operational effectiveness. We can think about digital business models, and we will be able to really made some good progress in our endeavor to create value for our businesses, and our endeavor to deliver business outcomes. So overall, I think when we start with saying why we're here, I truly believe we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity ahead of us that's far significant and we don't need to worry about. The only ask for us is to be able to transform ourselves, think digitally, and I think we are done. Thank you.